Sunday. I was not expecting to be this cold at this time of March, but tribulations. Tribulations. No, it's all good.
Please, announcement.
Yes. Yeah. So just our regular announcements. Next week, Sunday, the 23rd, we're going to do an information session for those who'd like to volunteer. Some of those were here when we did our planning session beginning of February. So that was one of the action items, is to kind of tell what does it take to volunteer with us, like here, giving talks or mediumship or any other, or some of the here with giving the doctrinary Spiritist education, mediumship, welcoming events. So I'd like to invite everyone next Sunday after our talk. There is food involved, as always, just to kind of make things more interesting. But we'll kind of brief you in all the how we will prepare the volunteers and discuss next steps. If you wish to be a volunteer, how we can be prepared and how you can join us in the work here with FSS. And if you have completed your membership form, you should have received Friday. We're going to have our General Assembly April 13. That's kind of as by our bylaw, we have to hold that assembly. So I invite everyone to check your email just to see our schedule. And if you're interested to put your name forward to be a candidate to work with our board, please do so. And if you have any questions, let me know, or let Victor and Ana, Sonia, Hey, Carol, we can chat about it. Good. Awesome. So today, before I start, we're going to do a little bit different today. And today, apologies in advance, because I might get emotional. So just being vulnerable up front with you guys. Today, we're going to do, we received a message in our mediumship session this Thursday, which was very special. And we would like to share that message with you. So we're going to read, that's why I gave you first, we're going to read Vinha de Luz, Vineyard of Light, that talks about tribulations. And then we're going to read the message that we received from our mentor Thursday evening. And we're going to discuss and see how those two texts connect. And I'm going to read the book, the text 142 Tribulations as our harmonization text. I'll do the prayer, and then we're going to reflect on this text, and then we're going to reflect on the message from the mentor, which really touched our hearts and touched my heart very deeply on a moment that I really was hoping to get a message that could at least put some light in the end of the tunnel, and that message came, and I want to share and talk with you guys about it.
Was that in Portuguese or in English?
The message was in Portuguese. So you translated. We translated. So there is an English and Portuguese version. If you wish, if you get English and want a Portuguese later, let me know. Okay. So the text we're going to read first is from the book of Vineyard of Light. It's text 142, Tribulations. And Emmanuel, it's from Chico Xavier by the Spirit Emmanuel. Emmanuel decided to use one passage from the letter of Paul to the Romans. Please correct, it's chapter 5, versicle 3, not 30. It was supposed to be a parenthesis there. And the text and the passage that Emmanuel will elaborate is, we also glory in our tribulations. And Emmanuel mentions, commenting on the favors received from the higher plan, Paul Tarsus very appropriately did not forget to add his joy in tribulations. Christianity is filled with sublime teachings for all times. Many disciples remember the apostle of the Gentiles only for his divine encounter with the Messiah at the gates of Damascus, focusing on his transformation under the renewing breath of Jesus. Many companions turned to his heart, envisioning his crown as a redeemed spirit and a glorified worker in the house of the Heavenly Father. The word of the great worker of Christ, however, leaves no room for doubt regarding the price he paid for redemption. He often refers to the hardships of the path, highlighting the educational and restorative stations between the first light of faith and the supreme testimony. After the consoling blessing that reforms his life, he finds himself facing scourges, despair, and stoning. Between the grace of Jesus, who came to meet him, and the effort required of him to reconnect with him, years of hard service and continuous renunciation are essential. Let us reflect on ourselves standing before the light of the gospel. Not all are reborn on earth with defined tasks of authority, social eminence, or governance of the world. But we can affirm that all disciples, in any situations or circumstances, can possess strength, position, and self-control. Let us remember that tribulation produces strength and patience, and indeed, no one finds the treasure of experience in the swamp of idleness. It is necessary to wake up with the day, following its bright course of service in the opportunities for work that it reveals to us. Earthly existence is a passage to eternal light, and to proceed with Christ is to follow in his footsteps, avoiding the insidious detour. Therefore, in the examination of Paul's reflections, let us not forget that if Jesus came to us, it is up to us to march fearlessly toward him, understanding that for this, the great work of preparation must begin in the marvelous and unknown land of ourselves. Let us pray. So, let's raise our thoughts to God, to Jesus our Master, to all our guardian angels, and the entire spiritual team that guide this work, that guide this house of love, to continue helping us, enlightening ourselves, and helping us in this journey of moral evolution. Let's be grateful for one more opportunity that we are here this morning, putting our best effort, using our strengths to reflect and to learn more about this journey and to learn more about ourselves and how this consoling doctrine can help us in this journey. Let's ask that we be guided, that we maintain our connections to the divine wisdom, to the divine love, and to the divine will, so we can best use this time in our lives, and maybe we can leave here today a little bit better than when we enter. Let's hope and let's pray that our meeting is guided by love, by serenity, by patience, and that we have a blessed morning, and that this house of love continue irradiating light and love to us and to all our brothers and sisters that join us here. So be it. All right. What did you think about this text? Tribulations. So it's not new that as we are living in this planet of trials and expiations, tribulations are part of the contract. But what I really liked about this text is how we are invited to see those tribulations being a small one, a medium one, or a big one, as this opportunity that makes us stronger, that makes us part of the journey of learning of what to do. Because if you think about it, everything that we are facing, we ourselves were the ones that created. Due to some ignorance at that time, maybe we took some detours. Maybe we choose a different path that goes aside from the divine laws. And that's okay. that we did this, because God is all mercy, and God gives all the opportunities for us to course correct. And those tribulations are one of the mechanisms that God puts in front of us so we can make that change. And isn't that interesting that at the beginning of this text, we very much remember about Paul, about that time, right? It's when Paul encountered Jesus, and we talk about that encounter. We have a lot of reflections on what could Paul have done differently and how he chose just to continue going, not looking in the past, not being worried with the future, but just doing the work. But his work was full of tribulations. His work, as mentioned here, stone, despair, scourges. And he continued, right? And that's an invitation for us as we navigate through those tribulations, that we continue, that we see the strengths that we're building. It's like going to the gym, right? Sometimes even going to the gym can be a tribulation because it's not easy to wake up in the morning with the scope and practicing and doing some exercise. But it's with those, with that experience that we build that strength. And I found it also very insightful. Sometimes we might think, oh, it's just person A, person B that has this strong power, that is kind of in this high-powered authority that will face some of the more hardships or stronger tribulations. But no, it's every one of us, everyone that incarnated on this earth are set up for success. And sometimes even that is hard to kind of believe sometimes, right? It's like, oh, God is tricking me. No, it's like he's playing some tricks. He's just testing me. But no, we know that God, and we are essence of God, we have that light. And everything that we are going through here, there is a purpose. And we are equipped, as Emmanuel mentions here, in any situation or circumstances, we all possess strength, position, and self-control. When I read self-control, I was like, do I? Of course, it's part of the learning, right? It's part of the experience of having that self-control. Especially at the end, when he mentions here, when we decide to embark in this marvelous and unknown land of ourselves. It's like when we decide to do that self-encounter, right? Let me just talk to Luis. Let me just talk to Luis as incarnated, and everything that Luis has already experienced in this incarnation, but also what Luis as a spirit experienced in many other incarnations. Isn't that an act of courage? An act of braveness? Because it's with that, because we can only control what we can change, it's whatever is inside of us, right? And when we find that, we find some dark spots. And as Victor mentioned last time, the dark, we cannot create it. It's just the absence of light. So if we find those darkness, especially on the tribulations, it's important that we are conscious and we put forward the best of our light, the best that we can. Not only, and you're going to see in the other message, the act of humility to not borrow, but ask for help when we need a little bit of that light from others. Because as we are in this community here, we all have that role and that power, if I dare to say, to kind of borrow a little bit and help with that light as well. So I found, and it's interesting, as 2 weeks ago, before this Thursday, this text came about 3 or 4 times for me when I open my vineyard of light every morning. I was like, what are you trying? What is happening? So, and then when we had this message on Thursday, it's like, oh my God, okay, got it. I got it. What is that? What is happening here? So, and just good, as we read it here, let us remember this tribulation, as I mentioned, that is the tribulation that will produce strength and patience. Oh my God, patience. This virtue, when I did a talk about patience, it's one of the virtues that is there for us every single moment of our day. It personally is a virtue that is in front of us, and there is an opportunity to practice every day. Like if we compare, let's say, to forgiveness, it's kind of like we have more intense situations that forgiveness we're invited to practice, but patience, man, it's almost sometimes minute by minute that we have that invitation for us. And this tribulations is one of the mechanisms for us. And we're going to see, because I want to end, hopefully, if I have time. Emmanuel, just take this, we also glory in our tribulations, but this is a longer passage from Paul, and I want to talk about the entire passage and how I myself, this is just Luis, how I created a circle of how the tribulations help us create patience. But I'll leave that for the end. But it is necessary for us to do that. As hard sometimes as it can be, it is part of our contract. So any thoughts? Before I jump into the message, any thoughts? Any other highlight that you saw as I read this text of Tribulations?
I have one.
Yeah.
And apologize for my English.
No need to
I will
apologize.
try. I do
Oh,
my best. But not only with this passage, but I try to learn a lot with Paul and Stephen. How do I say Stephen in English? Stephen.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was thinking about that a few days ago. I don't know why. This thought came to my head. Because when we think about Jesus, for example, and we know that we will get there someday, no matter what. But still, at the evolution point that we are at right now, we still see Jesus as someone so far from us.
Yeah.
But when we thinking someone as Paul, for example, or Stephen, I see at least as person like us. They were people like us. And now we know how the story ended, and maybe it's difficult for us to know. They were like guys so with so many, so they were so tão sábios.
Knowledgeable. Wisdom.
Yeah,
Wisdom.
they were like
Wise.
so evolved
Wise,
already.
Yeah.
But no, they were not. And when Paul, for example, saw Jesus, it was spectacular, of course. But we see Jesus all the time in these kinds of meetings, for example. But the difference is that he chose actually follow Jesus and actually like try to be a better person. And it was not easy for him. It was not easy for him, but he chose that. Mm-hmm. And we can make this choice also in small situations on your lives, in small tribulations or big tribulations, we can have this choice. And also Stephen, they were like people like us, and they chose follow Jesus. They chose this best and this better path. So I try thinking all the time. Paul and Stephen is my favorite book ever. And each time that I read the book, I learn so much, and I try to see that way. Okay, they were like me. They were. I can do that. I can do better. I can learn with the tribulations that I have in my life. all we all can do.
It is a choice that we make every day. And we, as he mentions here, can we choose to stay idle, neutral?
Yes.
Some people
Yeah.
do that.
Yes, we
It's
can.
also a choice.
It's also a choice. If we choose to do nothing, it is also a choice. What do the Spiritist books says about being neutral? It's like, yeah, but I'm not doing any bad. I'm just here, navigating.
I'm comfortable where I am. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to evolve, or I don't want to grow because it's difficult to evolve.
It takes time. It takes
time.
effort.
And I think in the last lecture, Renata said that you made a choice because you don't want to grow. So it's okay. It's your evolution. It's your journey. We're in that stage.
Yeah. But the Spiritist books
The others
mention.
will move on.
Yeah, they're actually a category, if I, for lack of a better word, of neutral spirits that are considered as inferior, as us, imperfect spirits. Because if you choose to do nothing, we're also choosing not to practice the good. So the neutrality, a choice, like any other choice of doing good or bad, the neutrality will set us back, or will stay where we are, because we are not doing. And I'm not saying to do the good, doing helping others,
Move mountains. No.
move mountains, or changing the world. What am I saying? In myself. It's. I always say, I sound like a broken record. One of the favorites quotes that Alirio says is, the best thing you can do is to work on yourself. A melhor obra que você pode fazer é o trabalho em você mesmo.
Luis, just a question. If we choose to stay neutral, doesn't make sense that we're not doing good, but is it also considered that we are doing something bad? By the spirit,
Yes,
spiritist?
because you're
Missing
not
opportunities,
taking.
right?
Yeah, it's your missing opportunity.
It's also like, oh sorry.
Go ahead.
No, like nowadays we know more clear, like right from wrong, like good from evil. So it's not about the evil that we do, because lots of us, at least deliberately, we don't do all the time, but the good that you don't do,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. And you're missing. If you think about, look at all the efforts that are put together for us to be here and to incarnate. There's a lot of.
We are disappointing people.
I'm not. I was just saying it's a responsibility. It's a
Yeah.
lot of responsibilities for us to honor all the things that are done for us, and we asked in our program to be here. So deciding just to do nothing, it is a very it's a waste of our time, of our own time.
Yeah, it's missing opportunity,
Yeah.
right?
Well, what is it that they say that it's not what you did do, but it's what you didn't do when you could have
Yeah,
done. Right?
exactly.
Something like that.
We gotta at least try.
Yeah.
Try. You gotta at least, maybe we try our best, didn't work, but we tried.
Yeah.
We put the effort. We decided to take an action to do something. And Rosandro says, in all the parables, everything, God never punished any of those characters because they did it wrong, right? But all of them did something. Might have done something wrong. Let's say the parable of the prodigal son. He made a wrong choice, but he regretted and came back. And the master never said, "Oh, punish you, I told you so." Never. In any of the parables, there's always that self-acceptance and welcoming, whatever the wrong decision was made. So in any, there's always an action. Being right or wrong, we did something.
And I think context matters a lot here. Because when, to your point, Marianne, about the idea if you're just doing nothing, is that necessarily bad? In my reading of those sections regarding idleness in the Spirit's book, it was almost as if I got a sense of a resistance in us. So we would know that there's something better we could do, but we kind of push against it. Like we'd rather stay here and do nothing than do that thing that we know that could be better for us and maybe for others around us. Going back to actually what Victor was saying last week, and when we were having the discussion about progressing from like negativity to positivity, if you're on your path and you would have an inclination to do something actual negative, and you get yourself to a place where I don't know that, or you don't think to do something nice, but at least you think to do something restful and not engage with the negativity. That is
itself an action.
That is an action of progress,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I'm saying I think context is greatly central to this.
Yeah.
It's personal to you. Idleness could be a great act of strength for you if your inclination would be to do something negative rather than positive. Just taking a step back and reserving an active step that might cause harm to somebody else. That is, you know, an improvement to what was occurring in your life before that. And then as you build that comfort, that habit, and you get inspired to do positive things, then it can blossom into other steps. But I think that one of the things I love about Spiritism and the reference is that even these ideas of paths and progress and the line, it really is just arbitrary in the sense that we've created it to make it simpler to understand. But everybody's journey is
different.
It is
Complex.
exactly. It's complex and so intricately specific and nuanced. And in God's glorious creation, He's created the perfect path for each and every one of us, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
So you know in your heart if what you're doing is an improvement on the past or refusing an invitation to do something better. And if you find that you're fitting in a place of comfort regarding the decision, and the decision is just to take a step back, then that in and of itself can be something is progressive.
I wouldn't consider that idleness, because it takes a lot of energy for us
like
to
that.
control
Yeah, that's
our
true.
bad inclinations.
Yeah, these
Because
things.
how do you recognize a good spirit? Kardec asks, what's the answer? By the efforts that he or she made to control their bad inclinations. Just to control. If I wanna, I don't know, just a hard example, if I wanna punch anyone for any sort of hatred that I have, if I decided not to do that, I think that that's not idleness. That's a lot of energy and a lot of things that happen to not to do that. It requires a lot of effort. So control, as you described it, for me, that is exactly the definition of controlling our bad inclinations. And if we decided to do that, that is an action of courage, action that takes strength, and I consider that's a big action.
Oh,
yeah,
of course.
yeah,
Totally.
No,
yeah.
and I agree with that. It's just, I guess, one thing I've always tried to, in my own life, really embrace the humility of is that everybody has just like their own flavors with things,
Oh,
their
yeah.
own
Yeah.
tendencies towards words, right? And so if the word works for you and it makes you feel and puts you in a good place, then go with it. You know, I think ultimately that's the standard maybe to apply in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And then build from that, whatever that may be. So to your point earlier when you were asking if idleness is necessarily bad, it depends on how you, and how Luis was just saying, for him that's not idleness, what we were just discussing.
Mhm.
If for you, you would find it more comfortable to discuss it as a restful place or taking a step back, or idleness if you would prefer, but it puts you in a place where you feel you're progressive, then I think that's ultimately what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that totally makes sense, and thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
I really remember like one example in my life where I kind of just chose to be idle in the situation, whereas like in the past I would do something that wouldn't be good for me and would be bad for others, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think some other thing that you said it's really good. It's like we know deep in our heart
Yes.
Mhm.
if we are making progress or
Or
not.
not.
So regardless if we are in an idleness or not, like I think we know in our heart
Yeah.
that's good or not for me.
Because there's no
Maybe
that concept that after we disconnected, we're going to align and some sort of judge will come say, okay, Mike, let's see here. That time, that
Here we
time.
go.
Here we go. Say, oh, that done. Nah, not done. That's not what happens. It's us. It's our conscious that will reassess. Oh yeah, Luis. Yeah, that time you lost your your thing.
Patience.
Or you did this, or this, good, accomplished.
Yeah.
But it's our own selves. It's our
Yeah.
own selves that will assess. That will, I don't like to say the word judge, but we'll assess and we'll compare.
Evaluate.
Evaluate.
Yes.
I wanted to do this, I did this. Good, did it. Or did maybe half. Or I have to start over again.
It's too long, yeah.
Yeah. So let's read. Now, this is the passage that, so the second text, there was a message that was received from our mediumistic meeting. So if you want to flip Maria, the second text here, that's a message that we received from our mentor. And it was just a beautiful message that really talks about tribulations and kind of console. It was such a big consoling message in some of the tribulations that we face. And the mentor used such an easy way of explaining it. And just you're going to see as we read, before the meeting we were just talking about planes. I don't know why we were talking about planes. About planes that fly high, planes that fly low, and about turbulence. And the spirits were listening to us and used that same conversation to explain those turbulence and some of the considerations that is very much aligned to this text of tribulation for us to understand what to do with it. So let's read it and then we'll reflect. So the message was from the mentor this last Thursday. So ladies and gentlemen, friends, brothers and sisters, good evening. I translated literally. It is very good to be here. We have already been here for a while, listening to the conversations. And that is why we're going to talk about feelings, using an analogy drawn from your early conversations.
Wow.
The evolution of feelings can be compared to the evolution of the airplane. We start with small airplanes, like the ones mentioned in the conversation, which are subject to turbulence. But with perseverance, humility, and discipline, they will eventually grow to the size of planes that no longer even feel turbulence. A few points about this evolution. Only the airplanes that decide to fly will face turbulence. The airplanes that remain on the ground will not experience it, but they will also not experience growth. Thus, those who decide to venture out and evolve may at first sign of turbulence choose to return or head in a direction that is not recommended, while others persevere. We must remember the humility that has already been mentioned. When facing this turbulence, there is humility in recognizing the size of the airplane, in recognizing the storm ahead, and in understanding that not every storm is advisable for that airplane. Diverting from the storm is an act of tremendous intelligence and humility, always focusing on the flight directed towards the heights, that flight guided by the inspiration of Jesus, so that the control tower of that pilot is the master. The master often helps us to calm the storm so that we can face them. Let us remember that faith, perseverance, and humility help guide us. When Jesus faced the storm, he asked his disciples, "Where is your faith?" And when they found that faith, the storm subsided, because their strength grew and their airplanes evolved. So my dear friends, remember that turbulence is often part of the journey. It can be a sign of evolution and change. And if faced with humility and used for knowledge and strengthening of faith, it can bring many benefits. We ask our dear Master to help us calm our inner storms so that we can see and hear with more serenity and love. Dear Master, may the light of your heart embrace us all. Good night.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was really, it was really beautiful. I hope you can feel some of the
Yeah.
words. But what really you see some of the comparison and how those turbulences and those tribulations were really part of it, and how we can help us grow. But what was really, I think, that touched me is the humility when there are some storms that we don't need to consider what is that the strength that we have, that we are able to, and sometimes divert, right? It's like, go, let's take another route. Not in the sense of a detour, but in the sense of recognizing that maybe we were not ready for that. And it's okay. And it's okay to do that. This act, and I think those 3 words of perseverance. Perseverance in this flight. Perseverance with our planes that are still figuring out the engines, the engineers in the room, that we need to kind of, oh, there's a tweak here and there that needs to be done, and it will be done. We are all the engineers of ourselves, and those tweaks will be done. But that perseverance to continue with our flight, with that humility to ask for some help, to divert, and that discipline, right? That discipline of looking to our own selves, that discipline to continue going, that discipline of, even though we might have not misunderstood, or we didn't assess our plane and we decided to take that storm. And now we are in that turbulence. It's like, oh, my plane is not set up for that. We still have that opportunity to go in a take that opportunity and divert, right? Reassess. It's like, oh, I need to go in a different direction because that is not help. That's not. I'm not prepared for that, and that is okay to do that. But at the same time, as we've been talking about idleness, if my plane don't take off and stay on the ground, it's a missed opportunity of growth as well. Only those planes that fly will have that opportunity to grow, to learn with some of the turbulence, because some of the turbulence are part of. We needed to go there. My plane is set up to do that, to go through that turbulence. And with that turbulence is where I'm going to learn, right? So I think it was such a 2 weeks where I keep reading this text and then hearing that message on Thursday. I said, I gotta talk about this. I gotta share some of the struggles and some of my thinking, and how this message was so consoling and touched my heart. Because, and after the mentor said, faith, right? Faith in believing. Believing first in who? Who should we believe first? Ourselves.
Because God resides within you.
Exactly. And then who do we, if we take what Spiritist are kind of guided us in terms of a faith of conviction, is faith in ourselves, faith in life, right? And faith in God, in that providence, that whatever turbulence we're facing, and that's kind of what I did. I used ChatGPT to I put those 2 texts, the vineyard and this message, and asked to create a visual. and this is the visual, and I found it interesting, kind of that light in the end. That light in the end will always be there. Always. Rosandro once said, there's no quantity of mercy. Like, you got 5 credits of mercy, use wisely. No, and there's no like one has 10 credits of mercy, another one has 7, another one has 5. Every one of us, as sons of God, we all have mercy. And that light will be there. So it's with us to practice this faith, to believe in what is possible and in our own capabilities. Because God will never, and our guardian angels, and all the mechanisms that God has to help us, they will never cease. what happens is the decisions that we make. If we decided to maybe step backwards a little bit or to distance ourselves. This is decisions that we decided to make. Sometimes unconscious, but as we kind of learn more, we'll see, oh, I did that. So it's time for me to get back my plane together and make a change. So so those are my feelings as I read. I want to hear if there's anything you want to share. Or something that touched you with that message.
Connecting some dots here.
Yeah.
For example, when we choose not doing anything, just a quick example. Sunday morning, if we prefer to stay at bed, or come here, or come to any other place that we can evolve as a person.
Yeah.
So this is a choice that we can make.
Yes.
Being here, we study, we learn, and we evolve to what? To face turbulences in a better way.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many weeks ago we talked about angry and how long it takes. I think Juliana mentioned, okay, this lasts 90 seconds on you.
Mhm.
After that, you feed it. So the same as the turbulence. If we don't know how to deal with that, how to face it, what we will do, we will just feed it, and we'll go deep and deep and deep on that.
Mhm.
So, being here, studying, or anywhere else that you feel comfortable to be with that. Study, evolve yourself, grow yourself, because you will face turbulences no matter what. But you choose how to deal with them.
Mhm. Exactly.
And in many situations, someone driving bad in front of you, and they wanted to yell, but okay, take your way, instead of saying something bad. On work, someone is starting yelling on you, and instead of fighting back, just stay calm and, you okay? Can I help you with something?
And those are kind of the tribulations that was mentioned in the text before, right? You don't need the tribulations not for those that are kind of in that position of power or that some sort of authority. A simple
things.
Traffic or I don't know, kids or so many others that we have.
To be very, very bold.
Those tribulations, nothing happens by chance, right?
Parent is
another level, right?
I was going to say, if somebody needs a task, like a patient, there's two outside. Help yourself.
Just 24 hours a day, right?
So charitable, you volunteer.
I'm here to help.
Great study. Victor, don't want to put you on the spot. You were here on Thursday as well. Anything you'd like to add?
I guess the passage around faith as well.
Yeah.
When he compares it to the passage with Jesus.
Yeah.
And how it's really when we can, claw onto our faith that we become stronger and turbulence might subside. Like, it's not that the problems have gone away, but I don't feel them as a turbulence.
Yeah.
I'm still going through the storm, but I'm not feeling the turbulence. That's because my plane now it's not small anymore.
It's
a
equipped.
little bit
It's
bigger.
equipped.
It's
Yeah.
equipped. Yeah, so you don't feel it. You're going through it, but you don't feel it as a disturbance.
Do you know this passage from Jesus? So this passage is when Jesus was all with the apostles and they needed to go from one side of the river to another one. So everybody went into the boat and then what happens? Turbulence, not in the sense of an airplane, but a storm with the waves and Jesus was sleeping. I was like, man, the commander is sleeping. What are we gonna do? It's like, we're gonna all die. So they all woke up Jesus, right? And Jesus kind of controlled everything. So it passed, but then he asked at the end, where is your faith? Because at the end, it's all within us that happens. Did Jesus have all the miracles, No, it was within the faith, right? It's in the faith of our own selves to make the change or to do. And Attila, as you mentioned, context always matter, right? Because every one of us will have our own context, our own journey, and as we keep talking here, it's not about comparison. I don't want to compare my turbulence with Jules' turbulence and Alicia's turbulence. Everyone will have their own, and every plane will be more or less stable to navigate that, because it depends of our evolution and what we've done now in this earth, in this life, and the past lives. Because that's the law of merit. Everything that we did, everything that we accomplished, the tweaks that we did in our airplane, it's all us. We did that. We changed and we improved our plane to fly better in a turbulence. But that faith is kind of what guides us and what makes us strong to even make the tweaks while we are in turbulence.
I like how the text has maybe 5 times the word humility.
Humility. That
Right.
was
And when you were reading, Luis, I was thinking about this visual of Chico Xavier going through a turbulence, right?
Mhm.
And it's very well described in the
Yes.
movie. And then he gets into desperation. He starts yelling and, oh my God, what's going on? We're all going to die. And then Emmanuel just like yells in a good way at him and says, what are you doing? Don't you have faith? Look at everybody around you. So this came to my mind and I
Die
started,
with the elegance.
yeah, like, we're dying.
But
So what? Die with elegance. Like, you're a spiritist. You know what happens if you die. But then I was just remembering that and laughing on my own right now and saying like, Chico was scared. It's okay to be scared.
Yeah,
It's okay.
totally.
So it's just like, and then I start laughing because reading the past is easy, right? When we see it and we do the mea culpa and we kind of assess ourselves and say, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. We have all the pieces of the puzzle. We know the consequence. We are out of the storm. We are out of the turbulence. But when we look ahead and you're going through a turbulence, what am I going to do right now? What am I going to do in my life? So it's way scarier. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace and humility. Like, Chico was scared. I am scared too. Like, I go through my turbulence and sometimes I don't know what to do.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's
We'll learn.
okay.
Because it won't be only one turbulence. I don't want to disappoint everyone. It's not only one. There will be, again, different ones. But what happens, like I had turbulence A, now I'll have B. Depending on how I navigated turbulence A, the tweaks that I did, I'm better prepared for turbulence B. And then there will be C. And then there will be D. And everything builds up.
Sometimes it will be A, B, C, D all at once.
But it's how we grow. It's how we build that strength. And it's interesting how strength is using growth and strength in both messages.
Yeah, what I really like about that analogy is that it's not saying that the turbulence will pass. It's saying that you will be so strong that you will feel it.
Yeah.
You will become that airplane, that the wind and there's ice and you're just like flying
You will be a
calmly.
plane
Yeah.
that will weather all storms.
All storms.
Because
yeah.
we want the storm to pass.
Yeah.
But it's not that. It's about us
You.
being so strong that we don't even feel it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
There's
For
no
me,
guy will learn by spirits.
Yeah, as Attila mentioned, right? There's no Spiritist doesn't have. So for turbulence with family, here's a checklist. You do 15 steps, and then you will navigate as smooth as you can. We wish there was those 15 steps that we follow. Yeah. And then you learn them in 30 minutes, and you'll be evolved. No. Again, context. Everyone who have the capabilities, and everyone will navigate different types of turbulence, and will have different planes, right? So there's no like recipe in how to do that.
I also think like humility, for me it's like a word that really caught my attention, because when I was driving here, I was listening to a song and then I started like to cry because it reminded me of something that happened in my life, and it's something that I haven't accepted yet, but it happened, and it's like a turbulence, right? So it made me think that, gosh, I need to be humble to accept that in my life and know that I'm capable, that I have the strength to move on.
Yeah.
Like just leaving the past and move on with my life.
Exactly.
And I think if you're not humble enough, like to recognize that you're gonna face turbulences, and you need to accept them, because it's not because we're not accepting that they're just gonna vanish.
They're not happy.
No, they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
And it's funny how life brings you like similar turbulences 1, 2, 3 times to kind of test you and see if you've learned the lesson, to see if you can, do something about it. Because I really believe that life is going to continue to bring like similar issues until you learn how to handle that.
Exactly. That's the point, right?
It's the change
Yeah,
in your
it's the
plan.
change,
You
you know,
didn't do yet.
Because if we take back, is as we navigate our marvels in the land of ourselves, it's whatever is there in our land of ourselves that need to learn, right?
That was such a insightful point, Mariana, that you just shared. And I think it ties in on 2 aspects, because there's this idea that, yes, we build up that ability to stop feeling the turbulence, as I think was being suggested. Yet, I think I love this analogy, and it was such a beautiful message, and thank you for choosing to share it on a Sunday, because this is just a beautiful gem that you had the opportunity to receive, and to choose to pay it forward is such a great gift. And the other part of this analogy that I really love, though, the airplane, is the idea of the control tower, the flight guided by the inspiration of Jesus. And that goes back to your point about context and how things come together and the directions that we receive. And I love this analogy because a control tower is almost like the perfect support system individualized to each and every plane. It's not going to give the same advice and tell them to fly at the same altitude. You're just going to have crashes all over. There's just going to be calamity over the course of the skies. No, it is specifically targeted to each and every one of those planes. And Summit will say, no, you divert out of that storm right now. Like, that is not where you want to go. And the other plane will say, no, all straight ahead, right through it. There will be no problems. But it's always perfectly focused on making sure that all the planes are able to fly. All the planes are getting where they need to be, are able to successfully and securely go from their start point to their end point and land safely. And the message will always change for that particular plane and that particular pilot depending on what is needed. And I think it just ties beautifully to this inspiration from Jesus, our Master, and our conscience in God. And that's how intricate, not just it, but the universe of spirits that God is able to do that on such a scale. And not only that, and intertwine each and every one of those lives, to your point about receiving over and over again the same message, the same experience. And there's a quote in Taoism from Lao Tzu that says, and it's pretty famous, so maybe you've already heard it, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the student is really ready, the teacher disappears. And I love that quote. And it's happened so much in my life with experiences, just recently even, that I'm stubborn about something and I just keep dealing with it. And then finally I'm like, fine, we'll just do it your way. And then as soon as I say that, I don't even have to go through the experience again. It just disappears. I never have the opportunity to do the very thing that I was being guided to do, just because I've now agreed to do it, And so I always find that it's almost like the sense of humor of God. It's like, I don't even want you to do it. I just want you to be willing to do it, So, it's fine.
Easier.
Exactly.
It's easier. Just be willing need to do it. You don't need to go through the hardship.
But,
But
yeah,
I
that's
like
true.
the control tower
Yeah.
because it's not only the journey that is different for all of us, but it's also the temporary destination.
Yeah.
If I'm here to learn to be more patient and I need to practice that, someone else might need to work on their pride. So if we are all going east, we will crash.
Yeah.
So there are
It is.
temporary destinations.
What I would like to add is in that control tower, even though we have specific message, they're also beautifully coordinated by God through the divine laws that there's zero
Perfect.
risk of clashing. Oh, I gave a wrong message that will clash with Atla. That doesn't happen because it's so much well coordinated. And interesting enough, those towers are just in helping us translate some of the divine laws, because sometimes we decided to, I'm going to take a different route. As it mentioned, you decided to go in a different way. And that tower helped us say, ooh, you are going in a way that doesn't work, right? It's not aligned with the divine laws. But okay, we can choose to. We might have a little bit of trouble there, but that's okay. There is another opportunity to course correct that later.
And isn't that interesting? You have the tower saying you something, but all they can say is tell you.
Tell you, yes.
But it's up to the pilot, and sometimes the instruments, if there's a malfunctioning, they will tell you something wrong, like, oh, your altitude, you're losing altitude. But it's up to the pilot, especially if they have conflicting messages. Instruments are telling one thing, tower is telling one thing, and it's like your mind is telling you. Sometimes your mind is not functioning well and is telling you, this is wrong, this is gonna happen, you're gonna die. And it's up to you to observe, like the true pilot, to observe things, to take what the tower is telling you, analyze the situation, calm down and realize, no, this is the right thing to do. It's like with your conscious. But it's like you got the message, you're seeing things, or you think something is happening, but it's not. It's just your mind trying to trick you. But you have to observe, to be really present and say, no, this is the right thing to do right now. That's the beauty of that.
What you're describing is one law. The tower is there, Jesus is there. We have the law of free will to accept that direction on it.
Yeah.
God and Jesus will never, kind of, unless in some drastic situations, force us. It's about our own choice.
Can you imagine the tower coming
Yes.
to the pilot? I said
Said
you have to go down. Oh my gosh.
So I like to end. So as Emmanuel started with just this passage, we also glory in our tribulations, but as a bigger passage from the letter to from Paul to the Romans, where Paul kind of gives some sort of process to understand kind of this, how navigating through the tribulations, how this process works for us to build patience and to navigate the challenges of our lives. So it says, through whom we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand, and we boast in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we also glory in our tribulations, because we know that suffering or struggling produces patience. And patience, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame. I thought it's beautiful, because sometimes in our society, it's like, oh, you just believe in hope. In my kind of environment, it's like hope is not a strategy. I know, but it's a key component for us to continue marching.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't get anywhere. Because God's love has been poured onto our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. And what I did, I kind of just did this, like as we stand firm, we navigate in our tribulations, we acquire patience, we build our character, and that hope keeps renewing ourselves, keeps renewing for us to navigate another tribulation. And when I first did this, because I did this this lecture when we talk about just this passage, where is your faith, I only had perseverance at the middle. But with the message that we had, I added faith, humility, and discipline. Faith to continue, together with that hope. Perseverance, the same, but the humility, sometimes just to break the cycle and choosing sometimes not to go to some sort of turbulence because maybe you're not ready to do that.
What is character in this?
Experiencing character is kind of how we develop and acquire the strengths and the skills to continue navigating. Because it's with that experience that we gain all those skills to continue going. And we learned, right?
Yeah.
What to do, what not to do. That is what I had for today, right on time. Noon.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for all the efforts.
Yeah. Okay, so let us pray and then we go to process. So with our thoughts connected, that we are with God, with Jesus, with our guardian angels, with all the spiritual team, that's a special gratitude from us. Gratitude for everything that we have at our disposal, being here in this community, and everything that we have at our disposal, all the blessings that God, Jesus, through the spiritual team, pour onto us every single day through the divine mercy. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus, for helping us build and tweak our plans so we can go through those tribulations and turbulences as smooth as we can, and that we can grow and we can build the character, the skills, and the strength to navigate the others that might come, and that we continue connected with God and Jesus to learn to go through those turbulences with gratitude, that they are required for us so we can learn and maybe course correct something that we might have done that it was not in the right path. Let's pray that we have a week, a blessed week, with light, with serenity, that all the tribulations of patience, we can navigate it through that as best as we can, and that we can learn, and that we can have a loving week. So be it. All right, so now we're going to process. So I'd like to ask everyone to remain in prayer, and we'll call everyone.